You're 82 years old, and you can't chew solid food anymore. No teeth left. No blender in the corner. No soft food delivery app on a phone. No assisted living center down the street. No wheelchair ramp. Nothing. Just you. A hostile Ice Age landscape. And a small group of people who now have to decide whether you're worth the trouble of keeping alive. Somehow, over 1 million years ago in a cave, someone made that call. And they said yes. The real question is why. This isn't a feel-good story about kindness. It's a survival math problem. Every calorie spent feeding someone who can't hunt is a calorie the whole group doesn't have that night. Every hour spent guiding a blind elder around rocks is an hour not spent gathering food, building shelter, or watching for predators. In a world with no surplus, no stockpile, and no backup plan, that math should never have worked out in the elder's favor. And yet, again and again, the fossil record says our ancestors spent it anyway. Start in the Republic of Georgia, at a site called Dmanisi. In 2005, a team led by paleoanthropologist David Lordkipanidze pulled a skull from the ground that rewrote part of the human timeline. It belonged to a Homo erectus man who lived roughly 77 million years ago. He'd lost every single tooth, not from an accident, from old age. And the bone around his jaw had smoothed and healed over completely. That kind of healing doesn't happen in a week. It takes years. Which means this man survived for years with absolutely no way to chew raw meat or tough roots on his own. Someone was softening his food by hand, probably pounding it or chewing it for him first. Someone kept him fed, long after he stopped pulling his weight on a hunt. Now here's the complication. You probably walked in assuming ancient life was brutal, and anyone who couldn't keep up simply got left behind. Survival of the fittest. End of story. Nature red in tooth and claw. That version is mostly a modern invention. Homo erectus groups weren't lone predators sprinting across the savanna solo. They were small, tight bands, maybe 20 or 30 people, and losing one member meant losing memory, skill, and manpower all at once. An elder wasn't dead weight to drag along. An elder was a walking archive, where the water was in a dry year, which berries were poison, what happened last time a drought hit this valley. Letting that knowledge vanish might have been the actual risk, not the burden. Here's where it gets interesting, because Dmanisi isn't a one-off. Jump forward almost 75 million years, to a cave in northern Iraq called Shanidar. In the 1950s, archaeologist Ralph Selecki uncovered a Neanderthal skeleton, now known as Shanidar 1. This man was blind in one eye. His right arm was withered, likely amputated below the elbow decades before he died. He walked with a pronounced limp and had lost most of his hearing. By any solo survival logic, he should have died young and alone. Instead, skeletal analysis by anthropologist Erectus puts his age at death somewhere near 40, maybe older, genuinely old for a Neanderthal in that era. Someone hunted for him. Someone guided him through the cave in the dark. Someone let a mostly blind, one-armed man stick around for decades. So why does one broken skeleton carry so much weight? Because it isn't just one skeleton. Hold that thought, because the pattern gets stranger the further you look. Head to France next, to a limestone cave called La Chapelle aux Saints. Excavators found an elderly Neanderthal there in 1908, so crippled by arthritis he could barely open his own jaw. Spinal damage, missing teeth, joint disease running through most of his skeleton. In his final years, he likely couldn't hunt, forage, or chew solid food without help from someone else. And yet, he was buried deliberately in a shallow carved-out pit by people who clearly knew him and marked the moment he died. Go back even earlier, to Kenya, to a fossil catalogued as NMER 1808. This Homo erectus skeleton shows bone lesions consistent with a massive vitamin A overdose, probably from eating too much predator liver. That kind of poisoning leaves a person in agony, barely able to move, for weeks at a stretch. Researcher Alan Walker found the lesions were already healing by the time this person died. Someone stayed close through that. Someone fed them through a stretch when they gave absolutely nothing back to the group. One more case, because this one breaks the pattern in a different direction. In Calabria, Italy, a burial known as Romito II turned up a young man with a severe form of dwarfism, dated to roughly 10,000 years ago. His condition would have made him useless for the group's usual hunting method, chasing prey across open, uneven terrain. Anthropologist David Frere, who studied the remains, found he still lived well into his late teens, in a group that clearly adapted its behavior around his limits instead of abandoning him early. This wasn't an elder being kept alive. This was a whole group reshaping itself so a disabled young man could still belong. So here's the thing that connects a Georgian fossil, 2 Neanderthals, a Kenyan skeleton, and an Italian burial across more than 1 million years and 4 continents. Archaeologist Penny Spikins has a name for the pattern. Compassion as a survival strategy. Not sentiment. Strategy. Groups that cared for their sick and elderly held on to memory. Skill. And social bonds that raw physical strength alone could never replace. We can't know exactly what any one of them felt watching over a dying elder. That part stays unknowable. But the behavior itself is written directly into the bones. Caring wasn't the soft option back then. It was often the smart one. A group that abandoned every member who slowed it down, lost stories, techniques, and hard-won survival knowledge with every death. A group that carried its wounded kept all of it. It might be one of the oldest tools our ancestors ever built. Older than the wheel. Older than controlled fire. Older than language itself, for all we know. If you had to make that same call, would you spend the calories? Would you keep feeding the one person who can't hunt anymore, season after season? Drop your honest answer in the comments, because somewhere in a cave, real people already made theirs. Picture it one more time. A toothless old man in Georgia, fed by hand for years. A one-armed, half-blind Neanderthal, led gently through the dark. An arthritic elder, laid carefully into a shallow grave. A poisoned man in Kenya, nursed back from the edge. None of them could hunt. All of them were kept. Back to that 82-year-old. No teeth, no blender, no delivery app waiting on a phone. 1 million years before nursing homes ever existed, someone decided an old life was still worth the cost of keeping it going. That decision might be a real reason we're still here at all, scrolling and complaining about slow Wi-Fi instead of not existing. They said yes.